host, Lloyd, president of CUPE New Brunswick, and you are listening to CUPE Talks in the Maritimes with Nick and Chris.
Do you have any takeaways that you're going to be taking from the courses that you've learned so far?
Yes. So I've done a lot of the single day training courses through CUPE already. And one of the most valuable things is speaking and discussing events and experiences with the other participants.
And I would love to see more members get involved with anything, whether it's start out on a small committee. We want to see,
Can you tell us a little bit about what you've learned here this week?
It's a great learning experience, and as long as I've been around and involved, I'm still learning.
I am Nicholas London, co-host of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
I'm Chris Watson, president of the New Brunswick Federation of Labour and co-host of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
Hi, my name is Brian Watson, former president of CUPE New Brunswick and now the producer of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes and across Canada.
Wes Wills, Local 380 Vice President.
Hey, this is Justin Spooner, Region DVP and First Vice President of CUPE 1253.
I'm Shelby Dodge, President of Local 3226.
Karen Tier, President of the New Brunswick Council of Nursing Home Unions.
I'm Jamie Agnew, and I'm the President of CUPE Local 963, representing New Brunswick Liquor Store, Retail, and Warehouse Workers.
I'm Sherry Hillier, President of CUPE Newfoundland and Labrador, and General Vice President for the Atlantic Maritimes.
I'm Cheryl Ann Keown, and I'm the Healthcare Council President, PEI, and I also sit on Local 805.
Hello, this is Kathy Johnson, President of CUPE 5446.
Hi, my name is Dorinda Smith. I'm from Local 813.
I'm Teresa McAllister, Provincial President of CUPE 2745 Educational Support Staff.
Bonjour, ici Alain Soucy, membre du SCFP, Syndicat Canadien de la Fonction Publique.
Hey everyone, this is Candace Rennick, CUPE's National Secretary Treasurer, and you're listening to CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
Hey, this is Mark Hancock, CUPE National President, and you're listening to CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 1-year anniversary of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes. Of course, I am Nick, joined alongside the New Brunswick Federation of Labour President, Chris Watson. Chris, welcome to the show.
Here we are, 1 year later, big celebration. And I just got to say, even right off the hop, watching that entrance, that we've shown over the time, obviously now with the new edition of Solidarity Forever, but just listening to all those different members and all those different locals that sent those in, it makes me fill up with pride, and then hearing our national president, Mark Hancock, top it off and alongside Candace Rennick, it just, I can't help but bring a smile to my face.
We've got loads of different things for tonight, special happy anniversary messages. But I've got to say right out of the chute, thank you to Casey and Jeremy, who, I met them at the facilitator training while we were in Halifax, Nova Scotia earlier this year. And of course, saw them playing, had to have them do the new intro. Wonderful people, and hats off to both of them for doing this. And just a little jerk behind the curtain, that room was full of people, and they were so proud and so happy, as was I. So just a little peek behind the curtain there.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Wow, 1 year. We've got such a special show. Of course, Chris and I did a special sit down where we just opened up our hearts and minds and spoke about everything CUPE Talk from the beginning to where we are. We got the Saskatchewan president, Kent Peterson, on the show today. We got a special CLC message. Chris, this show is jam-packed with great content. What are you thinking?
Just excitement. From the beginning to the end to everything and that we're doing in between. I'm excited. I look back, like I said, at that intro, and I think about our first recordings as CUPE Talk in the Maritimes, doing that CUPE week-long education, which is coming up again here in February. But I
Yes.
think about, what we were doing there and, the technology that we were using at the time and how much we've grown in the year. I think that this episode is something certainly to be celebrated. I know we got some best wishes and things from members and from other organizations, so it just goes to show that what CUPE Talk in the Maritimes means and how important it is.
And if I may, the main event for tonight is the Atlantic presidents of CUPE doing a roundtable with Chris and I, where a huge announcement is made at the end of the show, and something that's going to rock the foundation of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes. So very stoked about that. And yeah, like you talk about everything we've got going on, brother, and we are rolling.
I just want to say how rare it is to have that President's Roundtable discussion, because do you know how hard it is to wrangle in all Atlantic presidents in order to have a sit-down discussion at the same time? Everybody has such busy schedules. So, for that to happen, stay tuned. You'll want to hear it.
Yeah, and what we went through to pull this off, to us. Because brother Chris is all over the map, and of course, to bring them all together, including myself, who lately has been very busy, but very excited with my new role. It's just been crazy. So to get us all together, finally, we were all thrilled, and the atmosphere was incredible. Nothing but positive vibes during the whole interview.
Yeah, no, it's when you can get everybody in the same location like that to have a discussion, awesome.
Brother, like, I don't even know where we should start, but I think what we'll do first and foremost is let's roll the CUPE Saskatchewan president's little sit down with me, and we discussed quite a bit of stuff. So I'm going to roll that, and you and I'll come back and we'll chat about that.
Can't wait to hear it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this segment of the show where we are discussing some very hot topics going on in Saskatchewan right now. And we are joined with the CUPE Saskatchewan president, Kent Peterson. Kent, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm a big fan, so I'm glad to be here.
You know what? We're a big fan of everything CUPE, and right now what is happening is so alarming. I'm going to read the headline that crossed my desk that made me get in contact with you ASAP, which was CUPE 5430 raises serious concerns over privatization of new long-term care homes in Watson and Estevan, Saskatchewan. That is super alarming to me. Could you tell my listeners just a little breakdown on the long-term care system in those areas?
Yes, I sure can. What I think is important and would be helpful for yourselves and the folks listening is do a little background on our provincial government quickly. I think some context would be helpful in understanding how this decision came about. And listen, I don't beat around the bush very much, so I'm going to be quite blunt about the type of provincial government we have. They were elected in 2007, and they're a far right-wing conservative, hardline extremist party. They have since then, so for nearly 20 years, they've privatized literally everything. Anything you can name, they have either privatized it or tried to. Today in Saskatchewan, we have pay-for-access MRIs. We have pay-for-access CT scans. So people that can afford to jump the queue in terms of diagnostics then get to access our healthcare system faster and quicker than folks that don't have the ability to pay like that. The ironic part of that is, as we've been saying, it actually has increased wait times for the rest of us, because when you privatize services like MRIs and CTs, what it really does is sap the public system of workers, and it means both systems operate less effectively. They've privatized more and more day surgeries, knee surgeries, hip replacements. They have outright sold a number of crown corporations, for instance. They've privatized schools because they are P3 sycophants. And for folks that may not be familiar with the term, a P3 is a so-called public-private partnership. It's privatization by any other word, and our government has been indoctrinated with that type of P3 ideology. And so they've privatized roads, bypasses, hospitals, the list goes on. And so when we get then into long-term care, it isn't a surprise to us, although it doesn't mean it isn't a worrisome, disappointing, alarming. This is a government that almost lost the last provincial election. And instead of reevaluating or getting some new ideas, they've really doubled down on what they were doing, which is confusing to me. I don't know why they're doing this, but I think they've made the calculation in their head that the seats they have are the seats they have because it's the bedrock of their base. And so now they're doing everything they can to appease their base, whether it's using the notwithstanding clause to suspend rights for certain folks, attacking workers and unions, and in this case, continuing on their privatization schemes. So in terms of these long-term care facilities, the background on it is interesting. So Saskatchewan actually, and it's thanks to our many years of New Democratic Party government before the Sask Party, Saskatchewan actually has a rather low ratio of private long-term care providers, of third-party care providers in long-term care. And even through the pandemic, the worst outcomes were, of course, in the very few privately owned and operated long-term care facilities. And so what our provincial government actually did, quite surprisingly, but I think it's because the rates of infection and death were so high that they had to, is they nationalized a number of private long-term care facilities, primarily Extendicare. Your folks may be familiar with the company Extendicare. And so we actually had added into our public long-term care facilities when a number of extended care facilities became part of our public health system. But even so, even though the government had made that choice, they were still wanting to test out more privatization. So in 2022, the provincial government started a pilot project for third-party delivery of a few hundred long-term care beds, nearly 400 of them. And just 2 years later, so in 2024, the government itself admitted the pilot project didn't work. And so the couple of companies that were contracted to do that pilot project have now had those contracts again taken on by the public system because private long-term care doesn't work. And it's not the fault of the workers in that system, it's the system itself. The profit-driven, the sort of short staffing, under-resourcing. I mean, it's bad for workers, it's bad for residents and patients. So even though this government has a propensity to privatize, it had to sort of admit defeat on the long-term care front a couple of times in the last few years. And then all of a sudden, we got this request for proposals that was put out by the provincial government, asking for private companies to submit proposals to the government to build, own, and operate facilities in Watson and Estevan. And CUPE currently represents many healthcare workers in Estevan. Watson, we do not. That's part of a different jurisdiction. However, the concerns about patient safety and worker quality of work and all those sorts of things still exist, whether we represent the workers or not. And so that's brought us to today, where the government is again tiptoeing into this privatization sort of scheme or model. One interesting thing, there's a couple of interesting things from the release that the government put out. And it said, the third party approach will be the most efficient and cost effective option, based on no evidence whatsoever, so far as I can tell. In fact, I think the reason they put that line in their news release is because our healthcare local, which is Local 5430, that represents about 14,000 healthcare workers in Saskatchewan, actually has very good language in their collective agreement about contracting out. And And in order for the government or the health authority to contract out services, it has to demonstrate that there are cost savings at the same level of quality. And we've been able to successfully stave off many different privatization efforts with that language, because you can't demonstrate that there are cost savings with no impact on quality, because that's not how privatization works. But I found the language in the government's news release interesting, basically trying to preempt that line in the collective agreement. So I got a couple of extra things I'd like to mention about the government's news release, but maybe I'll stop there for in case you have some follow-up questions. But that's just a bit of background about how we got here in the first place.
Well, and yeah, no, and that's great. And I'm glad that you broke that down, because this is where I want to get into the word privatization, because I don't think a lot of people get it. To me, the word privatization is a bad word. It's a word that it means so many terrible things, because when I'm a part of the public service and they're paying me, yeah, they pay me because we have a great group of people that will bargain a great contract for us, and certainly they give it their all, and they take good care of us, and we give good service. And that's the big thing. We give back what we receive. Now, privatization is me saying, I'm going to give you as little as I have to, but you're going to do double the work, or we'll just get rid of you because there is no one to protect you. And that's where we get confused, is privatization is not a good thing. And people need to understand the difference between the two. And that's where I want to talk to you a little bit about right now, is we understand how important public service is and public delivery, because we're a part of CUPE and we defend that. And we want that, what's best for families, the elders. We want what's best for everyone. We really, truly do. Why do you suppose the government is so quick to want to privatize everything? Do you think it is a cost-saving measure that they're looking at it like we can just screw these people around? Like, where does your head sit with all this?
It's not a cost-saving measure, because privatization always costs more. It has to. And so before I answer that question about where I think the motive comes from, because I do think there's a couple of pretty obvious places about why the government does what it does. Generally speaking, so whether it's about long-term care or any other form of public ownership or services, in terms of privatization, it always costs more because it has to. And so folks can think of it this way: if it costs X amount of dollars to deliver a public service, and if you privatize it, it still costs that amount of money to deliver that same public service. The difference when it's privatized is now they have to make up a profit margin because their investors expect a return. And so there's only two sides of this ledger. You can either increase the costs so that taxpayers or users of whatever service it is now paying for that profit margin, or you lower quality, which means you cut wages, you lay off staff, you cut corners, you defer maintenance, you limit services, and more often than not, you do both if you're the private company. And so, like, just on a ground level, you're right. Like, privatization always costs more because the heart of the matter for a private company is profit. That's literally why they exist. Whereas when it's publicly delivered, there is no profit motive. It's about the quality of care being delivered or certain outcomes and measurables that aren't related to a bottom line in that sense. Now, in terms of why the government has done this, I think two main reasons, frankly. One is this government is ideologically opposed to public services. They are. I could give 20 years of examples that demonstrate it. Don't take my word for it. There's that saying, like, when people show you who they are, believe them. This government has shown us who it is. They are hardline, far right-wing conservatives that do not believe in public services. And so there's one motive is their ideological motive, and it's plain as day. The other is, and I think it often gets missed, and sometimes I feel like I'm wearing a bit of a tinfoil hat while saying it, but you know what? It's true. Saskatchewan is one of 2 jurisdictions in the entire country where there are effectively no rules on election financing. Newfoundland and Labrador is the other one. In Saskatchewan, you can donate as much money as you want to any political party or politician. There are no limits. And there's also no limits on where you live. And so if you are a corporation from Saskatchewan or from a different part of Canada or from the States or from anywhere in the world, you can donate any amount of money. There is no limit to the Sask Party. And that means more often than not, when we do research afterwards about which companies are getting contracts from the government, guess where they happen to end up? On the list of donors to the Sask Party at the end of the year that we get. I mean, it's not a conspiracy. You can check the lists. And so
public knowledge.
I suspect that whichever private company is rewarded with this private long-term care deal, I bet you when we get the list, say in March of next year, of all the 2026 donations, we'll find them on that list. Wow. I mean, the reality is these folks reward their corporate funders and backers. It's political corruption, and it's totally legal in this province to do so. And so, like, why are they doing this? Like, I think those 2 main reasons.
Wow, that's crazy. And I hearing you say that, I think you're right on the money. You'll look next year, and those names are this year, and those names will be on it. It is a really sad state of affairs that, you know, that is how the government's working. It really is, because they're not thinking. And this is where I want to talk a little bit about. That is that's the question I want to talk about now, is the impact that this is having on the residents and families in Estevan and Watson. Can this, or have you heard anything from people in those areas? What are their concerns? Are they scared?
Well, one of the impacts immediately, actually, since, like, as you mentioned, it is folks, particularly in Estevan. And Estevan is a city here of 11,000 people. And hey, for Saskatchewan, like, that's a sizable city. For us, one of our smaller cities. And so it's not an insignificant amount of people. They have been fundraising for years to get a long-term care facility in their community. And so there's been, a fundraising committee and charitable organizations collecting funds and raising money to do that. Well, now they've found out that actually there is going to be no community-owned or publicly owned long-term care facility. And so now they're sitting there wondering, well, what do we do? And so what they've had to start doing is go back to their donors, people from that community who said, here's some money because we need this in our community. They have to go back to donors and say, hey, would you be willing to donate your money to a private company to help get this facility set up? Like, come on. It's like Walmart or McDonald's having, bake sales out there so that we, have the honor of having one of them in our communities. I mean, like, it's gross. People donated this because a lot of them, frankly, thought, well, I'm getting older. I want to make sure I can stay in my community when the time comes where I may need long-term care. So they donate. Now they find out that it's going to be some corporation from who knows where, the States, Europe, who knows. They'll actually be making profit off of them. And so there's a direct impact in terms of the community's work to get long-term care. But because the facilities haven't been built yet, that's part of the request for proposals. We don't know the direct impact yet on folks, although we can surmise a bit what it would be like in terms of understaffing, lower quality, higher costs, all those things that come with long-term care. But we can look to previous examples in this province where the government has taken this direction and look at what the impact there was in terms of looking forward about what it might be on folks in Watson and Estevan. So in that government, same government news release where they announced this latest scheme, they said, quote, Saskatchewan has a long history of strong partnerships with third-party providers for the delivery of healthcare services. So it's something they're proud of. And I've already mentioned the increasing wait times on private MRIs and CTs and all the other disasters I've mentioned. But I do want to bring up one because I think it can help answer the question about how this impacts people. And it's an example that took place in another community here called North Battleford. And in 2015, the same government, announced that it was going to be building a new hospital. Well, that's a great thing for a community, as long as there's a plan to staff it and all that kind of stuff. And they had an old hospital that needed replacing. But true to form, they said they were going to do it through a P3 model, public-private partnership, which really meant private company gets hired to build the thing, and then they get a sweetheart 30-year contract. That's 30-year contract where the public pays this private company $6 million a year to maintain a new hospital. Well, that's a lot of money, especially that same health region area spent $3 million on maintenance for all of its facilities combined in 1 year. And here we're going to give $6 million for one new hospital. Well, let me just give you quickly some history on what happened in that case. So first of all, it was plagued with delays because of the private contractors couldn't fulfill the demand. And so there was delay after delay after delay. In 2018, so 3 years after it was announced, it finally opens. So it opened in 2018. And then 2 months after it opened, I mean, here's the headline. 2 months after opening, Saskatchewan Hospital in North Battleford needs the entire roof replaced. This is a new hospital. It's been open for 2 months. The entire roof needs replaced. They also had to remove all of the brickwork. All the exterior bricks had to come down and all the cladding had to be removed. Why? Because the private contractors screwed up the insulation and it was impacting the insulation inside. And so they had a new hospital. They had to do the whole exterior again and a whole new roof. And by the way, it cost $407 million. But that wasn't the only problem. They had no end of water issues, some related to that roof, but others. And I'd like to read just some of them because there is, of course, a couple of reports done on this particular private healthcare P3 scheme. And one of the issues they found at the hospital, of which they found, according to this CBC headline, 200 problems with the brand new hospital. Of the roof and the brickwork was just one of them. From one report, though, it said that workers told us that due to a flaw in the water system, extremely hot water was entering the toilets and that people were burning themselves when they flushed the toilet. These are folks that are in a hospital for a reason. And you're sitting them on a toilet and think of you're a healthcare worker or you're a family of this patient and they're burning themselves because the idiots that built this hospital hooked up the hot water line to the toilets. I mean, do you trust a group of folks that can't build a roof, can't insulate a building, can't properly hook up a toilet to run your healthcare system? I mean, the things that happen there are the exact same things that are going to happen with this long-term care facility. Yep. It's just, and you know what? If the impacts on people and workers weren't so big and so negative and so important, it would be laughable the way this hospital was built. And so you had people that needed to be moved in and out of there constantly because there's roof work, there's brickwork, there's the water that doesn't work. They had to replace every single shower faucet in this facility because they were all hooked up wrong. It's also a mental health hospital. And the private contractor then later had to remove every single door handle in the entire building and replace it because they used ones that weren't done to code, because you have to have door handles where you can't, you can't tie things on it to asphyxiate yourself, for example, because they're worried about death by suicide. And so, in a mental health hospital, things have to be up to a certain code. Absolutely. Well, the private contractor was looking to save a buck and cut corners. And so they bought the cheapest door handles they could find. And guess what? It impacts patients in that way. And so I've got a whole stack of examples from just that one hospital that was done with a P3, which is a private model. And part of this Watson announcement is not just a long-term care facility. Part of the request for proposal was for a private company to build and own a larger facility and then lease the space back to the government so they could run a healthcare center out of it. And so again, it's using taxpayer money to line the pockets of their corporate private buddies, and it's sick and it's gross. And so you ask about what the impact on people is going to be. It's like everything and everyone, from the community doing fundraising to the workers in the facilities to the patients and residents that are there just trying to live out their lives with a little dignity, dealing with toilets you can't use, showers that don't work, a building that isn't insulated, and a roof that leaks. I mean, these are the impacts that privatization has every time.
Not to mention the failed experiment of doing this all over Canada, and it has been proven on multiple attempts that the government has tried to get their hands into everything because it's all about for profit for them. And you know, when you telling me this, literally, it made my face drop. It made me feel queasy inside. I couldn't imagine my mother or my grandmother sitting on a toilet, flushing it, burning themselves, and then the government saying, oh, no, it's okay, it's all right. The people who built this were top notch. No, they weren't. They were not. So this is where the government needs to take accountability. And everyone on this show knows how much I love that word, accountability. This is where the government needs to put out a press and actually admit to their faults and do the right thing and turn this whole thing around and give it back to the public sector where it should be anyway. It never should ever be without the public sector, because we care and we work hard and we provide everything that the seniors need. Long-term care is not a joke. We are seeing it. It's getting worse every day. And the more the government tries to get their hands in it, the worse off it is. And I'm not saying anything that no one doesn't already know. So, you know, for you, Kent, when you look at it, in a perfect world, how do we get this back? What can the government, if they would just take accountability for their actions, what can we do to get these long-term care homes back in our possession?
Yeah, it's a great question about what next. And I, you know, from nearly 20 years of experience with these particular folks in our provincial government, like I do not expect them or trust them to ever admit their own faults and do the right thing. We have to force them to. And so the way that we will do that is on a couple of fronts. One is we'll continue to explore the language in our healthcare locals agreement that severely limits the ability to contract out. So that's one tool in our toolbox that we will keep using on the collective agreement front. And so that is a useful tool for us. And so if other locals that represent in any sector, frankly, don't have some language protecting against privatization and contracting out across the country, then maybe that's something to look at. So we'll be using that. We also do lots of different advocacy and political action things. And so we've of course done the comm side on this. We've started that, you know, news releases, web stories, social media stuff, because, you know, you have to inform people first before you can expect them to take action on something. And so that's an important piece for us. And so we're going to keep doing that. And then, you know, we will increase efforts if we don't feel the government is listening or working. And we can do that in any number of ways. Sure, there's an earned media strategy, but there's also one-on-one communication and conversations with workers. There's community and ally work, I think, which will be important. I mean, actually working with folks, say, in Watson and Estevan, and say, listen, like, you don't have to be a member of a union or part of CUPE or any of that to think that public long-term care is an important thing to have in your community. And so how can we work with local councillors and mayors and other stakeholders in those places to present a united front on that? And of course, we'll continue doing campaign work and asking people to sign petitions and send letters and make phone calls and visit with their MLA, their local politician, in the provincial legislative assembly about this matter. And so we push on, we have an all of the above approach on trying to get this government to do the right things. We have been successful in a number of instances in pushing back on them. We know we have until this summer, which isn't a lot of time really, because that's when the government said they want a contract in place to start this work with a private contractor. They said the summer of 2016. So we have to ramp up, and we will, because this is important. And you know what? Like, privatization is a bit like an infectious disease, and you have to stop it as soon as you see it at its source before it spreads, because it is that kind of devastating thing. And so that's why it's so important for us to do this work. That's why I'm glad that I'm talking with you about it here, because any support, any additional work on this would be greatly appreciated, because especially in long-term care. I mean, we're talking life and death, let's be honest here, in terms of the difference between public and private. And so we know we have a fight ahead of us, and the thing is, we're used to fights, and so we'll do that.
And I want to read the president of CUPE 5430, Bashir, last name?
Bashir Jalloh.
Thank you very much. I want to read a quote from him at the end of this release that I just think it should be read. It really shows, again, how CUPE works with everyone, and they really do. We fully support the need to replace aging facilities and expand capacity. But the best way to do that, while ensuring accountability, stability, and high quality care, is through public investment and public delivery. Anything less puts residents and workers at risk. That right there tells me that we are on board to work with you. However, the government needs to take accountability, and we need to make some changes. Kent, I can't thank you enough for taking your day to come here and join us on the 1-year anniversary show to discuss this. It really means a lot to Chris and I both.
Well, thank you again, and my pleasure. Congrats on the 1 year, and I look forward to the next year. How exciting.
Thank you so much, brother.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Chris, that was he was such a great person to chat with, very insightful, and he really broke down a lot of stuff for us. So I can understand their frustrations over there in Saskatchewan, because it's happening all over Canada. So I always want to say this, of course, we've got your back, Saskatchewan, and we will show solidarity, and we will help in any way that we can. And I know that you know that, Chris, because you are such a strong supporter of all things labor movement.
Yeah, when a situation's going on, obviously here in the province, we're able to go to them and attend everything. When it's happening over in a different part of the country, it doesn't mean that the solidarity stops here in New Brunswick. So we're going to be doing what we can, obviously, as a federation, as CUPE, and as CUPE Talk in the Maritimes. We'll do what we can to support you, and you're not alone. Like the song says, solidarity forever.
That's right. I couldn't agree more. Let's break down this Nick and Chris sit down. Not a lot, but just a little bit to kind of give a little bit of insight. We said we wanted to kind of give the background to the origins of CUPE Talk and why we did it and how it all pieced together. Just giving a little insight from your point of view, would you have ever thought we would be sitting here 1 year later doing this show?
Absolutely not, to be honest with you. We just talked about it, and I don't want to ruin the interview or the discussion that we had, but really, we just talked about it and said, how cool would it be? Right? So we said, what the hell, let's try it and see what happens. It's my first time, my first kick at the can, doing anything like this. So, I was going into it basically, blind. And I just, once I think we started, and then, you started seeing, people follow on Facebook and YouTube and things like that, which I always encourage everyone to do. So if you're listening to this now, go to our social media platforms and please follow us. But, when you start seeing the increase in numbers, you start saying, okay, wait a minute, maybe we got something here. So, in the beginning, I did not, but after a couple episodes, I said, yeah, we got this. We know what we're doing, and we're doing the right thing, and we're doing it for the right reasons.
Man, you and I are both so headstrong when it comes to the labor movement. This year alone, I mean, let's see, we started off by, that provincial election. We wanted change. We got them out. That was a big goal. From there, we would head to 8:30. From there, we would head to Nova Scotia. From there, it goes on and on. Like we attacked so many issues this year, Chris, and the future is so bright that I'm excited. I can only imagine how you feel as well.
Oh, I can't wait to just continue, what we do, and that's bringing forth the real content that's going on in the labor movement. When you're naming off all those things, I'm thinking, we talked about, Section 107 of the Canada Labor Code. We've talked about what's going on with PSAC, what's going on with the postal workers, what's going on at universities. Like, the content that we've provided is you're not going to get that anywhere else. You're not going to get it on 20 seconds on TV. We dive into the situations, and we do the information, and we bring the people on. So it's just a loss for words. Like, I mean, God, here we are. Like, let's go.
You know what? I couldn't agree more. Up next, MBNU President Paula Doucette, some special kind words from her. And then we're going to head right in to the sit down with Nick and Chris. So stay tuned. And after that, we will then move on because we have got a lot of great stuff coming as well. CLC's D.T. Cochrane is going to break down some issues workers are facing right now and why good jobs are so important. We're going to air that. That went out on YouTube. I want that aired here on this show because I think it's important. Followed by, of course, the roundtable. And during all this, some special tributes. So, Chris, I will see you on the other side of all this because we've got so much we got to air. And you and I are going to talk at the end, and we're going to try to basically piece the rest of this together. This is very exciting times.
Sounds good. Let's roll it.
Hey, CUPE Talks Maritime. Happy anniversary. As we head into 2026, continue doing what you're doing great, and that's bringing the issues to the workers of the province and across the country, frankly. Thank you for having me as a guest on your show, Nicholas, not that long ago. I enjoyed raising the issues of nurses in the province of New Brunswick, as well as talking about the Blair Doucette Youth Summer Camp. Look forward to more of your episodes in the coming year. Cheers to you, Christopher and Brian, and everybody else that made CUPE Talks Maritime successful. Happy anniversary.
Higgins Insurance, we understand that protecting what matters most, your family, your home, your livelihood, is not just a policy, it's a promise. As a trusted provider serving Atlantic Canadians for over 25 years, we're proud to offer personalized coverage tailored to your unique needs, whether it's auto, home, or life insurance. Our team is committed to transparency, reliability, and exceptional service, ensuring peace of mind through every stage of life. Let Higgins Insurance be your partner in protection. Because when it comes to your future, you deserve nothing less than confidence. The official insurance of CUPE Talk.
Charred Oak Designs creates custom, personalized gift products. With 2 lasers, a CNC, and all the woodworking tools needed to create your perfect gift. From board games, cutting boards for wedding gifts, and everything in between. Got an idea? Give me a shout at info@charredoak.ca. Find me on Facebook under Charred Oak Designs.
Hey guys, I am Nick. This is Chris, and this is CUPE Talk in the Maritimes. And today, Chris and I are doing something unique, something different. We're going to be interviewing each other for this 1 year anniversary show. So as we sit here today, we are actually out in the Charred Oak area where Chris and I have made ourselves comfortable and want to give a different atmosphere. So, brother Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, brother. Wouldn't think a year ago that we'd be sitting here, obviously, in the beautiful space that is Charred Oak, where amazing products come out. But, just sitting here doing some reflection, where we've come from in the past year and the stories that we've covered. It truly amazes me to be able to do this sort of thing. And like you said, this is a very unique opportunity, to be out in the sponsorship area to do this. Normally, it's a unique situation to be able to sit here and do it together, because normally Nick's here, I'm there, and thank God for internet and platforms that we're able to use to do these things.
Absolutely.
But here we are together celebrating 1 year with everyone.
A lot has happened in a year, let me tell you. Whether we're talking about 830, whether we're talking about Air Canada, whether we are talking about long-term care over in Halifax, to the strikes that were going on out west with the teachers. We covered everything this year, and I don't think we missed anything, because when it happened, and I got a good one, CUPW.
Mm-hmm.
First guys that were on the line to cover that story. A lot of pride here. A lot of respect for one another and for all of our brothers, sisters, friends, colleagues, and comrades across this country. And Chris, the one thing you and I can say is we were there for it all.
Yeah, and and it's as sad as it is. It's those types of things that made this show successful, because it allowed us to reach out, connect with members, be down there to show support and those sorts of things. So without the grief of the situations like that, the show wouldn't be as prosperous. We want to say thank you to the members. Thank you for standing up for your rights, and thank you for allowing us to be there to show our support, because that's what we do at CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
Right, and we've done a very good job of just that. You think about where we started, a year ago. Really, we started about 15 months ago, because everything has its time and place. Where Chris and I began this journey, it was a brainchild. It was an idea. It was supposed to be, I don't even want to say fun, because it's a serious thing that we were covering, but it was supposed to be a one-off. Went to CUPE New Brunswick, and we're going to talk about all that. And then as things progressed and Sandy Harding gave us a name, and then Sandy said, you could really do this. And, brother Chris and I would end up coming together as one and begin the process to develop what is now Talking the Maritimes. Chris, it's such a unique situation.
It is. So talking about all that, let's take it back to that, because that is ideally how this started. You were reached out to conduct some interviews with the CUPE New Brunswick Executive Board and our regional director. So you went up to Fredericton to set that all up.
Yeah.
And just take us through that, because that is basically how this started. Am I correct?
Yes, it is. It's funny because it goes back to the at the time CUPE 1253 president Iris Lloyd, now CUPE New Brunswick president. She was the one that was kind of hinting about, Nick does these shows. Nick can do these things that not a lot of us can do. And when it got out there, I received a phone call. If memory serves me correct, it was Sandy Harding who had said, would you be willing to come up to Fredericton? And it was right around the provincial election. And she said, we want to do all these interviews. We have an idea. We need someone to put it to fruition. And I said, I would love to. I'm honored. I'll be up. So I went up. And really what turned into, it was 7 interviews. And I will tell you about that. But first I want to say, I went to Sandy's room where we filmed Sandy's interview. So we sat there and filmed. It was great. It was A1. But when I started the show, I said, welcome everyone to I don't know. Didn't have a name. And it was Sandy who looked at me dead-eyed, serious, and she said, call it, this is CUPE, call it CUPE Talk. We got something right there. And we did the interview, and the interview went off like nothing. It was perfect. It couldn't have been any better. Here's where I laugh. When I began the interviews with Stephen Dross, with Teresa McAllister, with a whole bunch of people, the thing that made me laugh was I had the mic from the laptop, but I set up the mic that you guys would see occasionally today that we would use set up as well. So what happened? I got echo. So we're all done filming. I go back home. I'm going to start to edit these, and I realize, oh my goodness, it's all echo. So I felt like I let them down. I felt like that's it. We're done. It's not going to go because, and Stephen had said, well, we'll use this one, and obviously your one was saying he was good, we'll use that too. Okay, great. The rest literally, so that literally where it all started. Like that was CUPE Talk was actually born.
Okay. Interesting. It's interesting how that all comes about. And you learn from mistakes and everything else. I know when we first started, when we were roll a commercial, we used to sit there and we would chit chat back and forth and talk about, what we're going to do next. And I'll never forget the time when I asked you, I said, what do you want to talk about next? And you told me that you like Spider-Man. And, when we watched back on that, and that's when we used to go live, for sure. And I heard that and I went, oh, shoot, got to remember, turn your microphone off. You don't want to give away what you're going to be talking about ahead of time. But, we didn't talk about Spider-Man. Obviously, we talk about labor issues, which we continue to do today, although Spider-Man is a good character.
Yes.
But, you did those interviews, there was a little bit of flaws and things like that, but, they were still great. I heard them. It was getting the messages out because, like we said, when you do local media, sometimes, sometimes the messaging can get misconstrued or things like that, and you try to put out your own messaging, as your individual sectors and stuff. But, when you all of a sudden say, okay, we got a platform like this, the people enjoy podcasts and webcasts and all these different things. So why not, talk about creating something like this? And that's ultimately what had happened. But, something has to build that spark inside of you to want to do these things. Because it's a lot of, your own time. It's not, we're not booked off to do this. This is a permanent gig, so it's a lot of volunteer time. So, what was the moment for you that, you felt that spark come out when you were like, yeah, okay, I'm going to get more involved. I want to learn this, I want to learn that, and yeah, I'll do this podcast. So what was your moment that made you want to do these sort of things?
Back in 2021, I always used to say that if I was in a position where I could do more, I would want newsletters, websites, podcasts. A guy who did over 700 podcasts with Malcolm Wallace from CUPE 813. We had done another show on wrestling. So anyway, that's nor here or there, but I do want to acknowledge that that's where my path came from. I had done podcasts. Mm-hmm. 2021 happens and we're on strike. It was huge. I think, 3/4 of New Brunswick was on strike. It certainly wasn't just 1253. Let's be clear. Honestly, that happened, and I fell in love with the labor movement. when you were driving down McAllister Drive, anyone in St. John that knows that street, and that whole street was lined up with people all the way to the other end of McAllister Drive, and then make my way onto Rossay Avenue. And the way that I would lay on that horn and throw my fist up in the air, and just the power. You talk about having a moment where you tear up or you get goosebumps or chills. That was it for me. That was the day that I knew I'm going to do more. Where do I start? I mean, at the time, Chris, it's no secret. It's not like you and I were talking. I mean, you were in St. John. I was out in Rossay. I mean, it's not like we communicated daily.
Different locals.
More often than not. We communicated if we just ran into each other at your local shop, or if we were just out and about and we saw each other. We certainly always said hi. But like that was it. But it was 2021 was the day that I said I want to be a part of this labor movement, and I don't just want to sit in the back. I want to come to the front, and I want to bring a lot of these things to everyone's attention. So that was when it all started.
And to me, I'm like, that's a really good story, because back in that strike, everybody that knows me knows that I was president of the local at the time, and I was the coordinator for the war room for the St. John area. So that strike, it meant a lot to do that sort of stuff and work behind the scenes. Like I said, I think you were a picket captain.
I was a picket captain for
So
1061 out in Hampton.
Right. So when you're involved a little bit more, doing that sort of stuff, it's either, to me, I'm like, it's going to make or break you, right? Because, there's a lot of extra stress and a lot of more responsibility added to you. So, knowing that might have been the moment, or that was the moment, that really sparked your interest to want to get involved more is awesome. And like you said, we weren't, we knew each other. We worked together before, but we were different locals, and, our lives just never brought us together. But as soon as you came back to the local and you still had that drive, for wanting to do this sort of stuff, that's kind of how it started. We just started talking about the labor movement a little bit here and there. And then here we are. And that's, what we continue to do. We chit chat and we talk about issues and things like that. And, we do it so regular that here I am on the show now.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about your remembrance of how it initially all began for you, because obviously the origins of it all was me with QPMB executives. What is your origins to when Chris Watson became a part and became co-owner and co-host of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes?
So I think for me, it all stems back to doing my role as a CUPE facilitator. When you would get questions from members saying, how do I get membership to come to meetings? How do I inform people? How do they get more involved? And at that time, we always talked about our newsletters. We talked about doing different things at the workplace. We talked about, Christmas parties, just different ways to bring people together. And then once I heard that you were coming up to do these interviews, I thought, what a great idea, to do those sorts of things. And what better way to get the messaging out to the members than to put it out there from ourselves, right? We're not relying on other people to do different things or say the wrong things. What we say is real. So when I heard about that, and then I heard about you approached me and just talking like we do, and said, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? And I thought, yeah, wouldn't that be cool if we could do that? Because that's another way to get the messaging out to the members to hopefully get them involved. Like I've been talking about when I facilitated. This is just another platform that I thought, just wouldn't that be cool? And it was just conversation with you, talking about it. And, to be honest, I didn't know where it was going to go. But I thought, what the hey, we sit here, we talk about it day in and day out. Why not start recording it? It's basically like a recording a conversation like we're doing right now. This is how it kind of all started. We would get together, have coffee, and we would just shoot the breeze and, talk about what we could do. And said, after I think our first couple episodes, we thought, geez, wouldn't it be cool if we had some sponsors? Charred Oak, I think, was one of our first sponsors. And I remember, sitting there creating our first commercial and laughing and just having a great time talking about all this different stuff. To be celebrating a year later, to, having representatives and comrades coming to us, in Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, and all across Atlantic Canada, and all across Canada for that matter. I think I'm so glad that we took the opportunity and the chance to do this sort of thing. So I tell anybody, if you're ever thinking about doing something and you think it's going to make a positive impact, go for it, because you never know where it's going to go.
But my biggest thing is that the labor movement is yours for the taking. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't do something in the labor movement, because you can. The labor movement is made up of members all over this country. It is not necessarily just one division. I mean, the labor movement is huge, but also the labor movement continues to grow because new people find passion and they elevate to the next level. That is up to you as the individual who's the most experienced to make sure that you elevate someone with you and bring them up, because like Chris said, like he was the one that granted I was going to him. I would ask questions. A lot of people ask me, how'd you get so good at this? I can't take none of that credit. That was me on the phone with Chris for hours sometimes with questions. And I would call him up and go, Chris, can I pick your brain for a bit? It became a running joke with a few people, because that's what I was doing. And people would say, I've got my head so far up as what, but it did. And I was okay with that. That stuff didn't bother me because I wanted to be elevated. In order to be elevated, I had to tell them, I want to come up, but I need you to reach down so I can grab your arm and you can pull me up with you. And that's okay to do that. I don't care what anyone says. In order to better serve members all across this country, you've got to elevate, you've got to learn new things, and there are new tricks in our toolbox and new tools and new everything every day. And if you don't grab them when the opportunity's there, you'll miss them. That's why it's so important to keep your eyes open. That's why it's so important to Chris and I that we share things from all different locals, all different union reps, all of it. We share it on our Facebook, everywhere we can, because everyone deserves to know what is happening. And the news doesn't like to cover a lot of it. They pick it apart. We don't pick it apart. We air it. And that's why we are damn proud of the product that we put out, all the time for you guys.
You know what? I'm kind of taken back a bit, I guess. When you do these sorts of roles and people come to you with questions and things like that, it's, if you keep the things that you learn to yourself, then you're not building the movement. And that's why it's important to just talk and tell what you know, right? That's how you learn. So to know that, I had that much of an impact on you, that's awesome.
You do, still do.
Well, it's mutual, right? I mean, like, here we are doing this sort of thing. I think back, even we got the week-long school coming up. Do a little plug while we're here. The week-long school is coming up here soon for end of February.
That's right, yes.
So Keeping Your Brunswick week-long school, when you and I did that together, and we did all those interviews, some of them that you see in our opener, right? That was 1 year ago. And at that point, I mean, CUPE Talk was still super fresh, but it's we jumped on board and we said, we got to do this. And at that time, members were lining up to do interviews, and here we are going to picket lines and everything now and doing interviews. We're going to AGMs doing interviews. We're in the galley. When you go to conventions, and we got swag, and we Like,
We have a lot of
this
swag.
is crazy.
We have a lot of swag this year. All I'm saying is if you're at QPNB this year, stop by.
God. But, you know, and here we are, like I said, we're in Chart Oak, and we've got other sponsors and everything as well, which are all local businesses. You know, not only when we do this sort of thing, like, you know, we're talking about where we are and where we were a year ago. You know, we look at the promotion of local business because, you know, we realize about how important it is, you know, to support local as well. So that's why, you know, we got to thank always our local sponsorships.
Oh my goodness.
But, you know, where do you see were some of the biggest challenges though, Nick, you know, when getting this operation up and running?
Biggest challenges? You have to show that you're willing to put the time in. Nobody wants to be a part of a one-hit wonder. And I mean that. Nobody does. People want to be, they want to be a part of something special. And I wanted CUPE Talk to be special because I wanted it to be unique. I wanted it to be different. I wanted it to hit different. And so when you're reaching out, if you guys ever notice, the first quite a few of the first interviews, it was just me and Chris, because it's not as easy to reach out to people and say, "Hey, I'm Nick, and you know, you don't know me, but I'm doing this show called CUPE Talk, and I'd like to have you as a guest." Well, thank you. I'll get back to you and let you know. Well, and no fault of theirs. They don't know me. They have no idea what this show is. Now they can walk. However, we weren't trending on anything. We didn't even have a website up yet. So to them, it was like, okay. I mean, it seems legit, but I don't know how these guys interview. I don't know what they do. I don't really want to be a part of it. And I think this is our biggest plus, was taking off the summer and coming back. It was like something had happened over the summer. The challenges that we were facing were turning into completed. People were talking. I mean, we've had Andrew Woodcock tell me that he received a call one time just from somebody who wanted to know if it was legit. So when those things are happening, people are paying attention. And when I say this, I'm actually talking about somebody from out west made a call because they wanted to know if it was legit. By September, I could make one phone call or one email and have a response like that. And those were the challenges that made it so appreciative. So you were so happy, you were glorified that you had gotten to that point. You've overcome those challenges. And those are challenges everyone's going to face when you're starting something new.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one of the biggest challenges too is building the actual platform itself.
Yeah,
because, you know, we can sit here and we can jibber jabber all we want, but if you don't have listeners, then that's it. So that's why we always say, you know, we got to thank you, the listeners, and the members, for coming and listening and getting yourselves informed. Because, you know, at the beginning, we went from, you know, so many, and then you would send me updates. Hey, check this out, we're growing. Then I would see it, and all of a sudden it's growing and growing and growing and growing. And now here we are 1 year later. So that, to me, I think was one of the biggest challenges in the beginning, was how do we take this and how do we project the message and how do we get the people to listen? So that was one of the biggest challenges, I think, for me. But again, like anything, you know, when we're faced with these challenges, we've solved them, right? We have the listeners. We're continuing to grow. People know that we're a legitimate platform, you know, and that we're for real. And
well, let's talk a bit about you trying to balance this, because I mean, you're the Federation of Labor president. You are on many councils. You are a part of many different, I'll say, organizations. You are a part of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes. Plus, you have 2 girls. Plus, you have a house. how do you manage everything? How do you, if you were going to wrap this up in a neat little package, how do you pull it off?
It's just all about being aware and just timing. Everything's timing. Um, and it's one of those things where, when you're passionate about making a difference, you find the time. Too often it's easy to sit back and say, oh, I don't have time to do that. But then you spend a half hour sitting in front of the TV trying to figure out what to watch. Meanwhile, in that half hour, in my mind, I can do something productive and I can reach out to the membership because my mind's always in union mode. Well, I wouldn't say all the time, but like 90% of the time, I'm in union mode, right? How can I make life better for members? How can I solve issues? How can we make the province a better province, for the future? When you say, I look at my daughters, I think, how can we make a difference now to make things better for them? So, for me, finding the balance like that is just, it's just what I do. I sometimes you wonder how you can do it, but luckily with platforms like this, being able to jump on, with this platform or Zoom or anything else that we use, that makes a big difference because you could be at home, and if I'm required to be in Fredericton, Moncton, or any results around the province, or even like out of province, I'm able to jump on and still be a part of those sorts of things. So, saying that technology has a big part in it is big, but it's also recognizing too, when to make time for yourself, because you need to make time for yourself. We always taught it in facilitator class. We used to call it the leadership blues. So, you need to recognize when it's time to do that. For me, one of the big things is, in the summertime, I play softball. I'll say I should be in the Hall of Fame. Some people might argue that, but they're wrong. Yeah. But that's to me, so that's something for me in the summertime. I really enjoy that. So, when I go and do that sort of stuff, my brain shuts off from the world for like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and that's it. So it's important to find that balance, and same with my partner and I. In the summertime, we would go around, do some yard sailing, just go around, look for sea glass, whatever you need to do. It's important to find time for yourself because you can't do it 100% of the time.
You're right.
But
100%.
it's just, you got to find that balance. And when you find something that works for you, just keep it and just build from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
What about you? You're quite busy now. Newly elected Labor Council president.
You couldn't wait to get that out, could you?
I could, and I know we'll be talking about it probably on the next show. But, well, I should say on the next show. On the show previous to this one, because this...
Yeah, Back to the Future. Yeah.
As we say, is pre-recorded. But I will say this is all in one take. Which we do quite often, by the way. Because we do say, and this is just how this happens, right? We just start talking. So, when we do these sorts of things, I sit here and I talk, and sometimes if it is pre-recorded, I might fumble something up and I just go, oh, don't worry, Nick's going to edit that. So if it wasn't for Nick taking the time to edit all these different shows and conduct a bunch of these different interviews, none of this would even happen. So there is so much time that goes into these sorts of things that people don't realize. They get a show that might be 45 minutes, an hour, hour and a half, and they don't realize that there's multiple hours sometimes that goes into this to get it to that point. So how do you find the balance?
Well, I'm very open about, Melissa, my wife. She's my queen. And when she needs me, I'm right there. I balance it. I balance it well. Do I fumble? Yes. Do I get tired? I'm human. I just balance it. I love CUPE Talk. I love the labor movement. I am very, very driven. My wife loves to hear me talk about it. We chat about it. When there are obstacles in our way, we discuss it. And my kids are older. Your kids are younger. So it's a little easier for me to balance, but my wife makes it really simple. And for that, I'm forever grateful because she could easily say, I wish that you would do less and just be home more. I'm home a lot, but there's a lot that comes with this gig, and there's a lot that comes with Labor Council, and there's a lot that comes with the local. There's a lot that comes with the provincial part with CUPE New Brunswick. So when needed or when called upon, I do the best I can to balance everything and continue to just break glass ceilings. And that's what I will do until I can no longer do it.
You know what? You brought up a good point too about like, having the support and stuff like that. When we do these sorts of things, far too often we forget to thank our families.
And do we ever?
Because it's the families that they put up with a lot. And having their support means everything. So when we're at our AGMs, when we're giving up and we're giving our speeches to the delegates and stuff, you'll usually, I say usually because in the beginning I didn't, but it's important to, when you're thanking the members, to also, even though they're not there, to thank your family. And it's important for people to hear you thanking your family. So, thank you to your family, thank you to my family, and thank you to all the families out there that allow people to participate in the union. Because there's times, when we have to go away. And, it's not that we want to go away and be away from them. It's that we have to, right? Because that's the only way we're going to make a difference, is by a little bit of sacrifice for the members.
It's all about elevating. You sacrifice today for a better tomorrow, and you elevate today to bring them up here so they're ready for tomorrow. Everything you do, you have two options. You can look at it as a positive, or you can look at it as negative. It's up to you to provide that feedback. So when you're speaking to someone, you remind them the importance of balance, the importance of do not wear yourself out. I've heard that time and time again from this man right here. I've heard it from Wes Wills, one of our New Brunswick hosts. I've heard it from Dennis Shaw, our local president. And that is a very common thing that will happen, is you will wear yourself out. So balance, and it's all about your love and your passion for the labor movement. You bring what you have to the table, and you make sure that when you leave, that you've left it all out there on the table, so you have no regrets. You fight for your rights. You fight for your delegates, your members, anyone, your alternate. I don't care who you are, your vice president, your president, your recording secretary, your treasurer, your trustees. You fight for everyone, because when you're good, they're good too. It's all about staying together and fighting the same fight.
That's what we call solidarity.
Yes, it is. That is solidarity in a nutshell right there.
And you're right. Everybody has an important role, right from the leadership,
Yep,
all the way down to the members.
to the last member,
Right,
who
because-
signed their card.
Because you look at your executive. Your executive's only made up of so many people. It's the membership behind the executive that drives everything. We're just the elected leaders in these roles. But like as the Federation of Labor, and if I'm going about an issue, I can confidently say that I have 41,000 members behind me.
Solidarity right there.
It's not just Chris Watson going up there and speaking about issues and trying to make a difference. No, it's all the members that are with me that help make that difference. And that's the same with the Labor Council, with all your our participation there. And it's the same with the local. Members, that's how we're stronger. About how the show began to kind of given some, discussion as to, how to get involved and all these different things. But this is what we do, behind the scenes.
We're going to stay on track.
No, but this is what we do. This is how the show does it, what it does.
Yep.
And we sit here and we just talk and we go, hey, wouldn't that be a good segment? We could talk about this. Oh, I can get in touch with this person. Let's interview them about this. Or, so this is how CUPE Talk works behind the scenes. we just talk, like we talk labor stuff. We talk about, exactly what we're talking about. We talk about the importance, how do we get members involved? We talk about, what can we do? We get some campaigns coming up, how can we do this or how can we do that? And it's just a lot of just sit down and just have coffee, just talk.
The thing is, guys, there's not one piece of paper here. This is just me and Brother Watson sitting here off the cuff, talking about the same thing that we love to talk about week in and week out, day in and day out. There's nothing here. This is just us speaking to, and this is going to be where you guys need to listen, okay? Because this is why we do the show. We do it for 800,000 members in CUPE. We also do it for, my goodness, who knows how many thousands upon thousands of members in the labor movement as a whole. We do it for you. We don't do this show because we think, hey, we should just do something for fun because we're bored and we just want to do something. We do this for well over 1 million people in this country. So never think that just because, and I reference CUPE a lot because this is CUPE Talk in the Maritimes, but never make that mistake that we stand in full solidarity with the labor movement and every member in it from coast to coast to coast.
You're right. And, I think I said it on one of our previous shows, when something's going on at the post office, yes, we're there to help the CUPW members. Right. And then when somebody says, well, what's that have to do with CUPE? It's like, CUPE members get mail. CUPE members send letters.
That's right.
So it affects CUPE. It affects everybody. So I'm going to go support those workers. When something's going on at the hospital, how does that affect CUPE? I utilize services at the hospitals. I support the nurses. I support the LPNs.
That's right.
I support ambulance drivers. If something's going on with Public Service Alliance, I utilize those services too. So yes, it affects CUPE members. So that's why when we talk about issues with other organizations, one, we're standing in solidarity, which is what the labor movement's about. And two, it affects everybody. It affects all the membership all across Canada. Even if it's something that's happening in your municipality, in your provincial, because everything plays a role. Don't think that, just because the premier might be doing something here, that they're not going to do it over there, because they watch. They watch to see what they can get away with in all these other areas. And if they can get away with it here, you can be damn sure they're going to try to do it in other areas. So that's why it's important to stand up for issues. And that's why it's important to support other provinces, other municipalities, other sectors, other locals, whatever the case may be.
That's right. I couldn't agree more, brother. You know what? I think we should wrap this up because it's this here is a segment. A segment that turned into an entire show, but we're still going to use it on the 1 year anniversary. So we want to say thank you for being a part of this, and thank you for making us a whole lot bigger than what we really are. We appreciate every one of you.
Yeah, and like Nick said, here we are celebrating the 1 year. This segment turned into a show, but this is what we do when we get together. We just talk, and sometimes it might be a little long. You can skip through it, fast forward, whatever the case may be. But again, thank you for making this a success. And, we've celebrated year 1. Let's keep going, brother, and let's celebrate year 2.
Congratulations, Nicholas and Chris, on the 1 year anniversary of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes. The subjects that you cover are not only important to CUPE members and their families in your region, they're actually relevant to workers across the country. And connecting workers by sharing their stories builds solidarity, which is a keystone to our movement. So I want to say congratulations, keep up the great work, and I wish you continued success.
Hey, my name's Justin Spooner. I'm president of CUPE 824 and current sitting vice president of CUPE 1253, bus drivers, custodians, trades, and maintenance workers for the province of New Brunswick. Education sector. I was asked to put a minute-long blurb together about CUPE Talks in the Maritimes, and all I have to say is just wow. 1 year already. Amazing work to Nicholas and to Chris Watson and the team. You guys have done nothing but keep everybody in the knowing, and that is the biggest tool for the toolbox is knowledge. And if it wasn't for CUPE Talk in the Maritime, we would be where we were last year. We would be blind with no new knowledge. Thank you guys so much for digging into the deep topics of the union world and making sure that the Maritimes are in the knowing of what is going on with the rest of CUPE in Canada. So thank you so much, CUPE Talks in the Maritime. I love listening to you guys. I wish you nothing but the best, and I really hope to be making this message for you during your 20th anniversary.
Across Canada, many families are being squeezed by a higher cost of living, with more expensive groceries and rising rents, at the same time as jobs are disappearing and wages are stagnating. So what can we do about it? I'm D.T. Cochrane, Senior Economist at the Canadian Labour Congress, or CLC, and I focus on economics that works for the working class. And I'd like to explain why one of the keys to resolving the affordability crisis is good jobs. Currently, 2 in 5 workers say that it is difficult or very difficult to meet their household's financial needs. That is double the number that said the same in 2021. At the same time, corporations are reaping record profits. In just the third quarter of 2025, corporate profits broke the $200 billion mark for the first time. This is not a coincidence. Corporate profits are hitting records because of higher markups, which make life more expensive for all of us. Our pain is literally their gain. And yet, all the government is offering is more tax cuts for the corporations. The first step to addressing the affordability crisis is a crackdown on corporate greed by reversing decades of corporate tax cuts that only benefited the ultra wealthy. That would also help with the second step, improving and expanding public services. We know that programs like universal health care and pharmacare, as well as policies like rent control, help to keep life more affordable. But the most important step to addressing the affordability crisis is to ensure that all Canadians have access to a good job. What do we mean by a good job? A good job is safe and stable, with fair wages, predictable hours, and dependable benefits. Unfortunately, our calculations show that only about 2 in 5 workers has a good job. And the share goes down when we're talking about the jobs held by women, young workers, workers of color, newcomers, and workers with disabilities. The federal government needs to prioritize the creation of more good jobs. And Canadians agree. A recent survey done by the CLC found that 95% of respondents want the government to do more to help Canadians have access to good jobs. And this was true regardless of political affiliation. In the past, workers achieved good jobs when they came together, organized, and formed unions. The same is true today. We need the government to remove barriers to unionization. If you agree that workers deserve good jobs, then please join our Workers Together campaign by clicking the link in the description. Let's come together and fight for a better, fairer future.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Alain, président SCFP du local 588 et aussi vice-président région A du SCFP 1253. J'aimerais souligner le premier anniversaire de CUPE Talk. Félicitations pour votre beau travail. Continuez, on apprécie de vous écouter. Bonne journée.
Attention vehicle owners, tired of juggling tire issues and car maintenance? Meet Discount Tire and Automotive, your one-stop solution for comprehensive tire and automotive services. From top brand tire sales to expert installations and repairs, we've got your wheels covered. Our experienced technicians handle oil changes, brake repairs, and alignments, ensuring your car is road ready. Desire a smoother, safer drive? Discover competitive pricing paired with exceptional customer service. Don't wait. Schedule your appointment with Discount Tire and Automotive today. Drive with confidence, knowing your vehicle's in expert hands. Come in and see the team, and remember, Discount Tire and Automotive is an official sponsor of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes. Looking for more than just a haircut? Step into Carrick's Barbering and Artwork, where style meets creativity and community pride. Mike Carrick isn't just your friendly neighborhood barber. He's also a talented artist who brings portraits to life, offering both fresh cuts and one-of-a-kind drawings for his customers. With walk-ins always welcome, fair prices, and a warm smile that greets everyone at the door, Mike takes great pride in his profession and goes the extra mile to make sure you leave happy. Carrick's Barbering and Artwork is proud to support our community and proud to support you. Stop by today and experience the perfect blend of craftsmanship and care. Located at 27 Waterloo Street, St. John, NB, Carrick's Barbering and Artwork is an official sponsor of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
Welcome, everyone, to a very special segment here on CUPE Talk in the Maritimes. As you can see, I'm joined alongside my co-host, Nick, but we also have some very special guests with us here this evening, the Atlantic presidents from across, I guess, Atlantic Canada. So thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us here and turn this into something special. So we're going to do something that we've never done here on our show, and that's a Presidents Roundtable. Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit more about it?
Well, I think one of the most important things to do is show unity and show the strength and solidarity. And the one thing that we all have in common is solidarity. And being so close together, it's such a great opportunity for us to sit and talk about the good and what we can come together and what we do to lobby government and what we do to show people that, an injury to one is indeed an injury to all. And Chris, that's kind of what this gives us. I mean, we've got New Brunswick President, CUPE, for Iris Lloyd. We've got the CUPE Newfoundland President. We've got Sherry Hillier. We've got CUPE Nova Scotia President Alan Linkletter and CUPE PEI President Ashley Clark. So we are rocking right now. Like, we are very fortunate because these four people are all over the place. They are busy, and they're finding time to hang out with us for a little bit here. So I'm going to get right down to it. I'll start at the top. Iris, tell me, how are things going in New Brunswick right now?
You, Nick. It's pretty busy here in New Brunswick. We are getting ready. One of our big hospital locals, CUPE 1252, is getting ready in February to hold their first ever New Workers Forum. And it's new workers to CUPE, new workers to Canada. So it's great. We're able to celebrate that with them. The CUPE Newfoundland President, Sherry Hillier, will be in attendance, as will Alan from Nova Scotia. So it'll be great to be able to host them alongside the CUPE 1252 President, Norma Robinson. We are getting ready, Nick, like the other three provinces. We've got our CUPE New Brunswick Convention coming up, April 15th to the 18th. So we've got our registration form out there on our CUPE website. So we are pretty excited to have our delegates register to come to convention. One other thing we're really working on, Nick, is we're holding our first ever Young Workers Conference. We're going to be holding that the day before the CUPE New Brunswick Convention. So we were on a planning committee meeting before this meeting tonight to discuss with our young workers what is important to them and how can we make this conference great for them and a great experience. So it's been pretty busy here on our end. And, I get to have my my meetings with my other fellow CUPE Atlantic presidents. So it's always great to be able to spend time with them. So that's what's going on here in New Brunswick right now, Nick.
What an exciting time, isn't it, Iris, when I hear about the Young Workers Conference? Because I think back, I like to say not too long ago, but we'll just say it's been more than a decade ago, that you and I actually held the first Young Workers Conference here from when we did the Federation of Labor. So I remember how excited we were, to get that off the ground and get that mobilization happening and get those conversations going. So to know that the young workers are doing that here, that just makes me excited to hear that. So hats off to them, and obviously hats off to 1252 for putting that together as well, because that's huge, to welcome everybody in and to have workshops where people understand, because sometimes people enter the workforce and they get into these places and they're just given a contract and they don't understand what anything is about. So hats off to them to taking the initiative, to do that. And of course, I look forward to the convention, because who doesn't love a good convention?
Thanks, Chris.
Sherry, what's going on with CUPE Newfoundland right now?
We're quite busy over here as well. We elected a new government back in late October, and we're pretty much finding out what's happening here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Even though the Premier has given us all the same lip service of open door policy, nothing is going to change. Our university sector got announced today that they're shutting down, selling off properties. We don't know what it's going to look like for our university sector. They already had a mass layoff of 38, and some of the jobs were redundant or just layoff through attrition. But today's announcement was not what we were expecting. We had an announcement about a week ago on tuition freeze, on how they have to save money. And now, of course, it's going to be done on cutbacks at university with layoffs. So same as Iris, we're doing our convention April 22nd to the 24th in beautiful scenic St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. And we're doing our convention a little bit differently, having it at the end of the week versus the beginning of the week. Because there's so much happening in CUPE world over the next 3-4 months. But hanging out with these fine folks here is amazing. Last week I was in New Brunswick for the staff meetings, got to hang out with Iris and Ashley, took a ride over to Nova Scotia and got to hang out with Alan. So it's amazing. And the work that we're doing, I think the staff even see the communication and the solidarity on what we're doing together as the 4 division presidents of the Atlantic. A lot of amazing work. We're going to take on the premiers in our provinces and the health ministers, because when I heard the reports from the staff in New Brunswick and PEI, it was identical to the reports that I heard from Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and Labrador. It's amazing how much governments and municipal leaders, council mayors are doing the same thing in other provinces as they're doing here. So it's a big kickoff for us. Our budget is coming down in March. We haven't had a budget for a while, so stay tuned.
Wow. So it sounds like there's lots happening over there. Saddened obviously to hear that, that you didn't hear the news that you wanted to. And, obviously with the newly elected government kind of falling into the same shoes as the previous one. Maybe can you just touch on maybe just the importance of lobbying? Because we know that, when we want to make any changes, whether it be somebody coming in new or whatever, the only way to do that is through active lobbying. So maybe can you just touch on how important it is for lobbying and member engagement?
Well, absolutely. Since the new government has been elected and announced an open door policy, I know all unions, but I know myself, been making regular appointments, going to Confederation Building, in the Premier's office, in the Finance Minister, in the Health Minister's office, having conversations. Especially for us, because I forgot the other major thing that's happening is public sector bargaining. So we do 7 groups together that bargain at one time, 7 different collective agreements, and roughly about 4,000 members for us. we all go to the bargaining table at one time. So the government's not even really talking about that because right now they're just talking about the financial crises of the province. And unfortunately, we figure that's going to come back to the bargaining table. So that's why we're keeping our legs walking to Confederation building in the offices of any ADM, any minister that will listen to us and hear us out. So back at it again tomorrow. I'm at Confederation building again tomorrow to talk to the education minister and the minister of labor.
Awesome. Now, one thing I have to mention too, because you said about your convention, obviously you're one of the highlights of the convention because you always bring New Brunswick a fancy jig. Now, do you do that at your convention too?
No, I just put my shoe on the table, and about 2 years ago, I actually stood on the table with my shoes on and asked for more money.
I love it.
Alan, tell us what is happening in Nova Scotia, CUPE Nova Scotia. What's happening over there right now?
Well, thanks, Nick. So it has been absolutely crazy since the return of the new year. Like Nova Scotia, we've been wide open. First of all, I don't know about Iris, but I can't believe I'm sending out a call out for my first convention. Like, where did this year go? Like, it just went super quick. As we're talking tonight, I'm actually with our long-term care committee. So we're in conciliation and bargaining 2 days this week, the 29th and the 30th. And CUPE Nova Scotia has done a large campaign on wanting everyone to wear black. So please share that around, show our support with our long-term care sector. So yeah, planning for convention. We're also have our all committees meeting is planned for the fall, where we're doing some health and safety work, sort of a convention conference style. And then, yeah, so life is pretty busy. Lots of locals want to talk, especially our acute care. So acute care is facing large privatization, especially in our mental health and addictions. The government actually shared a post on Facebook today saying how happy they were with this private clinic that they have in for mental health and addictions, that they've seen, I think it was 1,000 cases. And I'm like, meanwhile, so we're doing an active campaign with the acute care sector as well as the Health Coalition in Nova Scotia to bring some awareness to community, to other locals, that this is happening in our province. And we see it time and time again, especially in the Atlantic provinces.
It's nice to hear about the campaign about wearing the black. I think back about when we had the Breaking the Mandate campaign going on. It's such a small ask to get members involved. So certainly, we'll promote that. And, it's as simple as wearing a black shirt, taking the picture, posting it on social media and saying what it's for. You don't have to be specifically from a certain province to support a certain cause at any other provinces. So we don't mind doing that to help you. And you're right, what a year it's been. Everybody's planning conventions. Everybody always says, you're always so busy in the spring. I'm like, well, that's convention season. And so, it's exciting, and I'm sure there's lots of work to be done, especially, with your first term. Maybe can you tell us a bit about what's going on? I know last time we were down there, I believe it was St. Mary's that was on strike. And there might have been another university as well that's not coming to mind. But did they settle that dispute?
So our post-secondary education, Local 3912.
Yes.
Yes, they have settled. They had a 2-week-long strike. I believe it was 2 weeks. It was a busy 2 weeks. 2 different locations, St. Mary's and St. Vincent's. So one side of the highway to the other side of the peninsula in Halifax. So it's back and forth a lot. And they made some good grounds, and hats off to their bargaining team. They have a strong president in Lauren. Yeah, we gave them 100% of our support through division, and that really showed. They are very grateful. And we were grateful for the actual learning aspect of a multi-composite local on strike.
Right. I know when I was down there, I think for the Nova Scotia Federation of Labor, upon adjournment, I was able to hit both of those picket lines and have conversations with those workers. So that's why I just kind of wanted to highlight that tonight, because, you know, sometimes we always focus on the doom and gloom, you know, but it's important to celebrate the successes too. So hats off to those members and congratulations for all the work that you've been doing there.
Thanks.
And of course, last but never least, we got to talk now to the CUPE PEI president, Ashley Clark. Ashley, what is happening in CUPE PEI?
A little bit of, the same shit, different pile. It's been busy here as well. We had our very first consolidated coordinated bargaining conference in the fall, right at the very end of Local 830 strike. 107 days on strike. You both were, well, everyone on this call was extremely supportive during that process. Literally, they got to a tentative agreement on Wednesday. That Wednesday was our all presidents meeting. And then Thursday and Friday, we had this coordinated bargaining conference, which was the first of its kind on PEI. And it was amazing. Some of the best feedback on a conference that we've had, people who've been involved with the union 20 plus years saying it was the most meaningful CUPE thing that they'd ever been a part of. So really happy to see that national funding continuing this year. We're planning some more of those conferences. And like everyone else has said, it's been full throttle planning for the year. Federation of Labor on PEI strategic planning, our CUPE PEI, we had our board meeting this Monday and doing our annual planning as well. Yeah, we've got all committees, national all committees. We've got a provincial all committees coming up that we're hoping to host in the spring as well. Traveling to New Brunswick for sure for your convention in the middle of April, and I'll be hitting up the 902 as well. Not making it to see you this year, Sherry. But in the middle of all of that, we're having municipal elections on the island this year in November. And obviously just coming out of the strike and seeing what an impact municipal councillors and mayors have on the work lives of our members, it's a huge priority for us to get progressive, labor-friendly candidates elected. So with the support of the CLC and the Federation of Labor, we'll be doing some municipal candidate training and orientation and info sessions, just really trying to reach out to strong community members that we think could be friends to the workers and friends to public services. That's the other coalition that I've been spending quite a bit of time here on the island growing and developing is the PEI Coalition for Public Services. So we've got we're working with one of our affiliated organizations, Energy Democracy Now, fighting against Maritime Electric, which is a private power company. They do all of the power on the island except for the city of Summerside, although Summerside is dependent on Maritime Electric for access to the grid. And they want to invest in fossil fuel generators, refurbished jet engines that they want to put on the Charlottetown waterfront through an American company. So not only are we privatizing, we're also sending potentially $335 million to this company called Pro Energy. So Energy Democracy Now is a newish group on the island, and they're doing amazing work. They're part of the Coalition for Public Services, and yeah, they're holding a host of town halls over the next couple of weeks in smaller communities across the island to have an opportunity to talk about this campaign. So that's something that I'm pretty active in, growing that coalition and supporting however I can. And then, yeah, and it just feels like, wow, bing, bang, boom. And then it'll be May and my convention as well, a little earlier this year than it has been for the last couple of years. And really looking forward to having all of my folks join me in Charlottetown.
Okay, so PEI, considered Little Island, a lot going on. I guess a lot to break down. First, you know, when you get talking about the privatization piece, I kind of tie that into the all committees meetings coming up for CUPE National, because those who know me know that I sat on for a number of years the anti-privatization and contracting out committee. So when I hear about that sort of stuff, I go, oh, I want to pull my hair out, but I don't have any. So you know, it's great to see that you're actively taking on that as well, because, you know, we have to fight back against privatization, right? We got to keep our public services, you know, and when you did that conference kind of thing, being the first of its kind and hearing how well it was received and everything, that's huge. Because it's always a little bit nerve-wracking, right? When we put on these different conferences and we don't know how the turnout's going to be, we don't know if people are going to be receptive to the content. So to hear that everybody was, you know, really, you know, into that, That's awesome. I think that's great because that's how we build member engagement. And sometimes we might have somebody maybe that's newer that might attend something, and all of a sudden, they're in. So, hats off to you and your group for doing that. And your municipal elections, Nick and I already met with an upcoming mayor candidate here in our area who currently sits on council. And we made reference to over there, and we said, I'm pretty sure that you heard about what happened over there, and we don't want to repeat any of that sort of stuff anywhere else. So I think that's going to be a message to be shared across Atlantic Canada for these municipal elections. To make highlights to that, because obviously what went on over there was absolutely horrendous, and I really hope that the mayor and most of the council in there, they see the door and make it, so like you said, some labor-friendly people in there, and build that relationship back up. So I know you're going to be doing lots of great work on that. We're lining up with the CLC to do the same thing here in New Brunswick, and I look forward to it. Who doesn't love a good election, right?
So here's what I want to do. I said I would keep you all for half an hour. Okay. And we all know how busy you guys are, and we're coming up on that. But I still want to ask one more question to each of you. And then I have a special presentation, if you will. I want to reveal something that Chris and I have been working on that will be becoming official tonight. After the show, it'll be official. So my next question, I'll start with Alan, is how important is it knowing that, as division presidents, you guys are always able to unite so well and work so well together? How important is it to have that relationship with your division presidents?
So, looking back from previous and now looking to what division has accomplished now, I am so thankful that we have the relationship with the Atlantic provinces that we do. I love it that I can pick up the phone and I can call Iris, or I can call Sherry, I can send Ashley a text message, whatever I need, and I know that they're going to be there for me. So that's a great feeling, especially as a new president. Like, just off the cuff, random stuff. I can message, hey, do you happen to know this info or this info? And it's great that I can always get an answer. I look forward to working the next year with this group. I see great things for our divisions. I really do.
Yeah, and same, we do as well. And like you had said about being a newer president, I know, Irish, you're in your first year of your first term. So we'll ask the same question to you, being a newer president. How do you find it, with everyone?
Oh, the solidarity that these three division presidents show us here in New Brunswick is absolutely amazing. Alan's right. For me to be able to pick up a phone and call Sherry or Ashley or Alan, we know that our premiers are working together and they're coming up with plans for Atlantic. And it is really time for the four division presidents to start doing the same. We are strong in our regions, but when we are together, we pretty well are unstoppable. And that is really what we wanted to build, not only for the four divisions, but for our members across our four provinces, that the stronger we are together, we are unstoppable. We're like that big video that they'll show of, the big shark, but then the 1,000 little fish. Well, we are the 1,000 little fish. And together we can do just about anything we accomplish. So it's great to be able to, work with these other three presidents. Chris, I must say I get to work with you as well on the Federation of Labor here in New Brunswick. You are also somebody that is a phone call away from me, that if there's ever something that's going on, especially in the province of New Brunswick, my first call is always to Chris Watson in the Federation of Labor. You've always been a strong friend of CUPE, and you are a very good leader for labor in this province. And it'll be great to get to work with you guys this fall, because we will be having some municipal elections as well. And, the same thing that the same game plan that Ashley's got in PEI will be very similar here in New Brunswick, because we do have to start electing people in, who put union members first, who put the issues that our members are facing every day first. And it's not so much about the bottom dollar, but it's about more what the people of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and PEI, what we need. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Iris.
Very important. It really is that everyone stayed together. And, you know, even though I know that nobody ever does this, but really a pat on your back, very important, because the four of you are so dominant. And brother Chris, I'll put you in the same category as the Federation of Labor president here in New Brunswick. The five of you are so dominant, and when you guys work the way you guys work, the way you guys lobby, the way that you always are up for a good fight, good on every one of you for that. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, seriously. Ashley, tell me what it's like with you when it comes to knowing that you've got Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick right there for you at all times.
It has, yeah, it's been a game changer for me. Like, we're a very varied region. We have 4 different provinces that are unique, and yet we share so much in common. Newfoundland and Labrador Island, just like me, Nova Scotia, same area code, New Brunswick, share a bridge, and we share similar governments. We have members who kind of have similar needs and wants and ideas and questions and interests. So being able to chat with all of the folks around this table has been like, yeah, it's been really important to me as a division president. I know one of my very first conferences ever, Sherry was part of a panel talking about strikes, and hearing her talk about the strike, I think it was in Mount Pearl, and the experience of the members, and just talking about the role of being a division president and supporting the members and how important the locals were in that really set the tone for me for understanding what is the role of a division president. And Alan alluded to it when he was talking about the strike for 3912. Like, you are there to support, and I have had nothing but support from these folks. Like, again, I'll talk about it 1,000 times, but this summer, all 3 of them went above and beyond to come to the island at their own division's expense. Like, National didn't cover that. They came to support CUPE PEI, and that was huge for our members. So yeah, like Sherry, obviously, like a huge inspiration and person that mentored me as I came on the board. And I am super happy to have Iris and Alan in their first year. And, I don't want to say that I'm a mentor because we've all been in the union world for a really long time, but to be able to share our perspectives, to share our experiences, to rely on each other when we have things that overlap, and to be able to collaborate on the things that unite us it's easy. It's great. We're meeting regularly, and it's just the difference between feeling alone and literally on an island and feeling like you're part of a region that supports and cares for each other.
And then I think about Sherry. It was not a drive away for us. Unfortunately, I wish we were, because we'd definitely be over there a lot more. But, being a little bit further away and, being, having, I guess, a little bit more experience at being a division president and being on the national executive board, and also as a general vice president, which I can say I was happy to be there to cast you my vote and see you elected. At that time. So, hats off to you. You have many different things on the go, but can you tell us just, what it's like over in Newfoundland, having access, to all of us around the Atlantic area?
Well, one thing that COVID brought to all of us is the world of technology and this Zoom. It's been amazing to be able to keep that communication. I think sometimes when we have our meetings by Zoom, it's like we're in the same boardroom together. A 2-hour meeting goes on for 4.5 hours. So that part is a little different. Obviously, financially, it's a little bit harder to get to New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. That's definitely always like it's a part that I struggle with. but being the longest serving, the most senior in the Atlantic, I welcome so much the new knowledge that's come to the Atlantic, the new perspective, and the new lens that our new division presidents bring to the table. Sometimes we do get too complacent in our roles as division presidents. And then when you meet a new division president and, you're building these bonds and what they're doing, I'm thinking, wow, like this is fabulous. And we just learn so much from each other. That's the thing. Yeah, like I pass on some of my wisdom, and some of it's probably not worth sharing sometimes. And we're building our strengths together. And that's a part of the Atlantic that I love so much, is to be able just to communicate regularly with the three other division presidents.
You are all amazing. I mean that I really do. And to take the time to do this. Now, I want to just give a little bit of a background. As everyone knows, when CUPE Talk in the Maritimes started, it was going to cover New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. That was the game plan. That was it. No more, no less. As things developed and you make new friendships and then you become more involved in solidarity, the labor movement, seeing new leaders, meeting new people, and people talk, and it generates more and more. So we have been very proud of the logo that we've had. And here on this show, we want to unveil the brand new logo that will be no longer just CUPE Talk in the Maritimes. It will now be CUPE Talk in the Atlantic. So this is the brand new logo that is being shared with everyone all over Canada. Very proud. Chris, what do you think?
I'm excited because, I mean, here we are celebrating the 1 year anniversary of the show. And, a year ago, we were sitting there, even just before this, trying to think of a name, for this program. And, here we are celebrating a year later, and we're already making changes because we're already growing. We're moving forward. We're engaging members. We have the presidents on here. So I'm excited to make this positive change. And I'm excited to grow CUPE and the Maritimes into CUPE Atlantic.
I can't thank you all enough. I hope you all like it. You all are inspirations to the labor movement. You are all inspirations to CUPE. You motivate us as individuals to want to do better for our locals, for the labor movement. You guys show us what the power of solidarity is. And we appreciate every one of you. And we want to thank you for taking the time tonight to come on this show and just talk to us in a nice round table where we were all able to discuss just little topics for everyone to hear.
Yeah, like Nick said, we can't thank you enough again for all the leadership that you guys provide, for your members and for us. I'm thankful that I get to work alongside you. I say I have one of the best jobs in the world because I get to work with leaders like yourselves. So, let's push forward. There ain't no power like the power of the people. And, we'll be there in all of the areas across Atlantic and across Canada to show support.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris and Nick.
Thank you.
Perfect.
CUPE Talk.
And now it is official. It is going to be called CUPE Talk in the Atlantic. Chris, long overdue and well deserved.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit different, but as we grow, here we are 1 year later. We've got some wonderful people helping us, and we're covering news all across CUPE Atlantic and Canada for that matter. But with everything going on, it just felt right to make a little bit of a change. Not a big change, but just enough to recognize that the Atlantic presidents do work together, and so do we. So On behalf of CUPE Talk in the Atlantic, thank you.
It is exciting, it is new, and it is fresh. There are people all over this great country that know they can tune into this when something is happening in the labor movement, and they know they're going to get it. Hence, Kent Peterson, Saskatchewan president of CUPE, saying to me, I am actually a big fan of your show, and I listen to you and Chris quite often. So thank you to them. Thank you to everyone across Canada that takes the time to listen to this show. The Atlantic is home. The Maritimes is home. But just because it's home doesn't mean we can't spread the love, the cheers, the good, the bad, the ugly, all across Canada, because I guarantee you the news isn't going to cover it, but that's where me and Chris come in, because we will cover it, and we will not lie to the members of the labor movement across this country. They deserve the truth, and that's where we make sure that they know the truth, Chris.
Yeah, and I mean, as we talk about that, Nick, and as we continue to grow, that's why it's important too, if you have something going on, to reach out to us so that we can cover the stories. We do our own investigations and reach out to everybody. But, if you got something going on, please send us an email. And Nick, what's the email?
The email is cupetalk@gmail.com.
There you
and
go.
we would love that. cupetalk@gmail.com. And on every social media platform, just look up CUPE Talk. You'll
Right.
find
You can even just send us a message through Facebook Messenger on our Facebook page. So after you go, you don't have to hit like and follow, but we strongly encourage it, don't we, Nick?
Yes.
So go, follow us, because, as we're putting things out, we put out memos, we put out posters, we put out information. You'll get the notifications that we put something out. And you won't have to go and do it. So we'll do hey, this is going on for you. But you got to follow us. So go and follow us and shoot us a message, and we will cover the content.
Damn right we will. And we'll do a good job too, because that's what we do. Now, as we say goodbye, and we say we will see you in 2 weeks' time, this is CUPE Talk in the Atlantic. And I am Nick. That is Chris. Chris, why don't you take us away?
So as Nick said, we are CUPE Talk in the Atlantic now. We will see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you to everyone who has made this as successful as it is, all the way from the members to the sponsors and everyone in between. So again, on behalf of CUPE Talk in the Atlantic, we'll see you next time.